More than 2 weeks since Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro claimed re-election victory, the country's opposition is trying to keep up the pressure.
Hoy quiero hablarte a ti.
With opposition leader Maria Corina Machado calling for Venezuelans to take part in a mass global protest on Saturday. But while the U.S. and other Western countries are calling for a full set of voting tally sheets to be released, they are showing little sign of swift, tough action over what many of them have condemned as voting fraud.
The responsibility is on Maduro and Venezuela's electoral authorities to come clean on the election results.
Both Maduro and opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez declared they won the July 28th vote. Protests against Maduro following the vote left at least 23 people dead and about 2,400 arrested, according to UN figures. The presidents of Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia are coordinating action while calling for full access to voting records. And a coalition including the U.S., Canada, Panama, and others are holding talks among each other and with Venezuela's opposition, people familiar with the matter said. Countries including China, Russia, Nicaragua, and Cuba have recognized Maduro's victory. A U.S. embassy official who was not authorized to speak publicly said no Western governments want to make the first move and instead prefer to, quote, take it slowly. The European Union has urged the release of voting records.
They should have been provided immediately.
An end to political prosecution and dialogue between the opponents, but has not anticipated any action. 3 officials from different countries said they are being mindful of what happened after Maduro's 2018 re-election. That vote was quickly condemned as a sham and led to the most severe sanctions yet on the OPEC nation. An interim government led by the opposition was widely recognized overseas, but the effort ultimately evaporated. The Biden administration has been keen not to complicate the way forward for the opposition as Venezuelans seek even small concessions from Maduro, a person familiar with Washington's thinking said. Democratic U.S. officials have threatened sanctions, but so far have held off on new punitive measures. Venezuela's foreign ministry and the U.S. Treasury Department did not reply to requests for comment. A review by Venezuela's Supreme Court is likely to take time and may not be impartial, given that it is packed by Maduro allies. Machado said on Tuesday America and Europe had been sending strong signals that they will stand by the opposition as long as it was needed.
Esto debe ser rápido.
She said this needs to be fast because obviously the regime wants to wear us out.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said on Wednesday he will step down in September, ending a 3-year term marred by political scandals.
The most obvious first step to show that the Liberal Democratic Party will change is for me to step aside. I will not run for the upcoming presidential election. I will continue to support the new leader who will be elected through the presidential election as a comrade. As the head of the organization, I have no hesitation in taking responsibility for a serious situation, the fundraising scandal caused by a Liberal Democratic Party member.
His exit triggers a contest to replace him as president of the party and, by extension, become the leader of the world's 4th biggest economy. Kishida's public support has been sliding due to revelations about the LDP's ties to the controversial Unification Church and unrecorded political donations made at party events. However, the Prime Minister has also faced public discontent over stagnant wages as Japan's cost of living soars. The new LDP leader will face challenges, including uniting the ruling party, managing inflation, and geopolitical tensions with China and the United States. Kishida is Japan's 8th longest-serving post-war leader and oversaw massive stimulus spending during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, he's stuck with the hawkish security policies of his predecessor Shinzo Abe, who was assassinated in 2022. Abe had unveiled Japan's biggest military build-up since World War II, with a commitment to double defense spending aimed at deterring neighboring China from pursuing its territorial ambitions in East Asia through military force.
Samsung Electronics faces another strike this week. The company's biggest workers' union said Tuesday it would begin a 4-day strike from Thursday. It wants to pressure the company over higher wages and bonuses. It comes just weeks after talks with management fell through in July. Vice President of the National Samsung Electronics Union, Lee Hyun-kook, said the strike is strategically designed to damage the company. He said the union expects the company would not have enough backup office workers to support production lines during the planned strike. Samsung said in a statement it plans to ensure there are no production disruptions. It also said it would adhere to no work, no pay principles and continue efforts to resume talks. The union declared an indefinite strike in July, but it asked members to return to work in early August after talks with management fell apart. The tech giant said in late July the strike held that month did not disrupt production. The union has 36,500 members and makes up about 30% of Samsung Electronics' South Korean workforce.
More Indian hospitals were disrupted on Tuesday as doctors continued nationwide protests against the alleged rape and murder of a trainee doctor in Kolkata. Authorities and the media say demonstrations for the deceased 31-year-old gained further momentum from the previous day. Thousands of patients were left without care across the country. Kolkata state officials said emergency services remained suspended in almost all of their government-run hospitals. And over 8,000 government doctors joined the strikes in the western Maharashtra state, halting all hospital departments except emergency services. Doctors held posters calling for justice for the victim, with some medics like Dr. Ranganathan Dixit in New Delhi calling for the Central Bureau of Investigation to act.
We want a fair inquiry and demand CBI intervention. We are demanding strict action against authorities who try to conceal evidence related to the case and the resignation of the college principal.
Doctors in India's crowded and often squalid government hospitals say they are overworked and underpaid, and sometimes bear the brunt of violence by those angry at inadequate medical services. Medics maintain their workplace environment is unsafe, even after the weekend arrest of a police volunteer in Kolkata for the doctor's murder. A Health Ministry spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Protesting Dr. Abdul Wakim Khan.
The principal of the college who made reckless statements about the incident was merely transferred out of the college. We are demanding his termination, not transfer. We're also demanding the death penalty for the criminal caught in the case.
A Kolkata police chief told reporters a case had been registered against the suspect relating to rape and murder. And the region's chief minister said she'd given state police a deadline of Sunday to finish their investigation. If not, she'd hand it to federal agencies.
Africa's top public health agency has declared an Mpox emergency as a new variant moves across Democratic Republic of Congo's borders. The African Centre for Disease Control and Prevention said the viral infection was spreading at an alarming rate. Mpox is transmitted through close contact and causes flu-like symptoms and pus-filled lesions. The new variant of an endemic strain of the virus appears to spread more easily through close contact, particularly among children. Epidemiologist Salim Abdul Karim says the problem may be more severe than thought.
The evidence we have on the number of cases, the number of deaths, they are just the tip of the iceberg. And the reason is that Mpox is largely a mild condition. We have limited surveillance. We have limited capacity to do the testing that's required. We have limited capacity to do the contact tracing and the reporting.
The CDC says that over 15,000 cases and 461 Mpox-related deaths were reported in Africa this year so far. That's a 160% increase from the same period last year. Mpox has been endemic in parts of Africa for decades after it was first detected in humans in 1970. A milder version spread to over 100 countries in 2022, largely through sexual contact. It prompted the World Health Organization to declare its highest level public health emergency. The emergency ended 10 months later as the health crisis had come under control.
Angola's President João Lourenço was in Democratic Republic of Congo on Monday. He met with Congo's president, Felix Tshisekedi, to discuss an ongoing ceasefire in the country's east and efforts to maintain peace in the region. The ceasefire began on August 4th, following talks between Congo and Rwanda, mediated by Angola. Congolese Foreign Minister Therese Kaikwamba Wagner said the two leaders had discussed strategies to strengthen the ceasefire and address ongoing security challenges.
And both reiterated and expressed their firm commitment to ensuring that the ceasefire is respected and observed by all the parties that signed it. The two leaders also called for all other ongoing efforts to create an environment conducive to a lasting resolution to the conflict.
The ceasefire aimed to halt hostilities between Congolese government troops and the M23 rebel group, but sporadic clashes have continued. Congo, the United Nations, the United States and other Western governments have accused Rwanda of backing M23. Rwanda vehemently denies the accusations that have heavily soured relations with its neighbour. The conflict in North Kivu province has forced more than 1.7 million people to flee their homes. That's contributed to a record 7.2 million displaced persons across the country, according to United Nations estimates, due to various conflicts.
Stocks rose to a near two-week high Tuesday after softer producer prices data reinforced bets of an interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve in September. The Dow added 1%, the S&P 500 gained nearly 1.7%, and the Nasdaq jumped 2.4%. Producer prices climbed less than expected in July, and in the 12 months through July, the PPI increased 2.2%. After climbing 2.7% in June. Consumer prices come out Wednesday. Traders now see a 55% chance of a 50 basis point rate cut by the U.S. Central Bank next month, from less than 50% before the report, according to CME's FedWatch tool. The other 45% see a 25 basis point cut, though Adam Coons, co-chief investment officer at Winthrop Capital Management, said he thinks the Fed will keep rates unchanged.
We're going to see the Fed really want to see continued momentum to a labor market that's softening, inflation that's softening, before they're going to ever cut rates. So we think it's more likely that they're probably going to wait until the very end of the year, maybe past elections, before they start to cut interest rates, simply because they do not want to get it wrong, cut rates, and then have to increase them again because we see a flare-up in inflation again.
Stocks on the move included Starbucks, which skyrocketed 24.5%, its biggest one-day percentage gain ever, after the coffee chain appointed Chipotle head Brian Niccol as chairman and CEO. Chipotle shares fell 7.5%, and JetBlue dropped nearly 5%. It plunged more than 20% Monday, after ratings agencies S&P and Moody's downgraded the airline after it unveiled plans to raise more than $3 billion in Starbucks debt. Shares surged as much as 24% in Tuesday morning trading and were on track for their best day ever, after announcing Chipotle Mexican grill head Brian Niccol will become its new CEO. The stock jump erased all of Starbucks' 2024 losses. Niccol, who's been at Chipotle since 2018, is heralded for reviving the burrito chain, where annual sales have surged and the stock has more than tripled over the last 5 years. He replaces Lakshman Narasimhan, whose tenure only lasted a year and a half, after he was originally brought in to engineer a reinvention of the world's biggest coffee chain. But Starbucks stock continued to falter, losing nearly 1/4 of its value. It has been under pressure from activist investor Elliott Investment Management to improve its business, and has suffered from increased competition and weakening demand in the United States and China. Elliott on Tuesday said that Niccol's appointment was, quote, a transformational step forward. And one analyst told Reuters the move was a significant victory for Starbucks, as Niccol will be given the much-needed leeway to make investments and time to turn around the company. Starbucks recently tweaked its business model to focus on mobile pickup and delivery orders, rather than cafes set up for long visits. In April, it cut its annual sales forecast after reporting a fall in same-store sales for the first time in nearly 3 years. Meanwhile, Niccol's pending departure from Chipotle is hurting that stock, which dropped as much as 14% in Tuesday morning trading.
Award-winning Pixel camera.
Alphabet's Google showed off its new Pixel phones with deeper AI features, as well as live demos of its chatbot Gemini on Tuesday.
Now you can just circle.
One Pixel-only feature lets users search for information stored in screenshots. Android users can also now pull up Gemini as an overlay on top of another app to answer questions or generate content. Rick Osterloh oversees Google's Android, Chrome, and hardware.
With your permission, it can offer unparalleled, personalized help, accessing relevant information across your Gmail inbox, your Google Calendar, and more.
The new Pixel 9 series phones have been redesigned with newer chips and cameras, and the base model starts at $799, up $100 from the last generation.
Pixel 9 Pro Fold.
Meanwhile, Brian Rakowski, a top executive in the Pixel division, introduced the newest folding version of Google's phones.
It's the largest display on a phone, and it's 80% brighter than the first generation. This big screen gives you so much more surface area for entertainment, productivity, multitasking, and content creation.
Google also announced new versions of its smartwatch and wireless earbuds. The event bucks Google's tradition to announce a new version of its gadgets in the fall. That timing is its latest bid to keep up with rivals in injecting AI features into its consumer-facing products. It also comes ahead of Apple's planned launch of a new iPhone in September. In June, Apple said its latest devices would get upgrades that include Apple Intelligence, a slew of generative AI-powered features within native apps, and an integration with ChatGPT.
Swiss banking giant UBS posted a second quarter net profit that comfortably beat forecasts, as it announced a new stage in the integration of its one-time rival Credit Suisse. It reported on Wednesday a net profit attributable to shareholders of $1.14 billion. It's more than double the $528 million forecast by analysts in a company-provided poll for the period from April to June. These are the bank's first results since completing its formal legal merger with Credit Suisse in May. UBS acquired its long-term competitor last year in a rescue that was engineered by Swiss authorities when Credit Suisse collapsed after a string of financial setbacks and scandals. In a statement, UBS CEO Sergio Ermotti said the first half's gains reflected the significant progress the bank had made since closing the acquisition, saying UBS was now, quote, well positioned to meet our financial targets and return to the levels of profitability we delivered before being asked to step in and stabilize Credit Suisse. Ermotti also said that the bank was now entering the critical next phase of the integration. After booking a massive Q2 profit last year amidst the buyout, UBS had posted 2 straight quarters of losses from the cost of absorbing its rival. Investors warmed to the takeover, by this summer pushing up the value of UBS's shares by more than 2/3 since it bought Credit Suisse in March 2023. Though recent turmoil in global markets pared back some of those gains, analysts are watching UBS's absorption of Credit Suisse closely. And Ermotti said in May any delay to the technological integration of the two banks could erode planned cost savings. Markets are also watching how Swiss authorities move forward with plans to tighten banking regulation, as they seek to ensure there is no repeat of the Credit Suisse meltdown.
Paris Olympics showcased the world's top athletes. Many are supported by a surprising cast of celebrity partners. From glamorous couples to high-profile romances, discover which famous faces have found love with Olympians and who's cheering them on from the sidelines. Shaun White and Nina Dobrev. Snowboarder Shaun White and actress Nina Dobrev, linked since 2020, met in 2019 at an event. Shaun only realized Nina's fame when a restaurant staffer asked her for a photo. Naomi Osaka and Corday. Tennis star Naomi Osaka and rapper Cordae have been together since 2019. After withdrawing from the Australian Open, Naomi announced her pregnancy and the couple welcomed their baby girl in mid-2023. Simone Biles and Jonathan Owens. Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast ever, met her husband Jonathan Owens in 2020. They got engaged in February 2022 and married in April 2023. Owens, a Missouri Western alum, plays safety for the Chicago Bears. Andy Roddick and Brooklyn Decker. Tennis legend Andy Roddick and supermodel Brooklyn Decker, married since 2009, have been together for over 15 years. Roddick competed in the 2004 and 2012 Olympics, while Decker acts, including a role on Grace and Frankie. They have 2 children. Valeri Bure and Candace Cameron Bure. Russian ice hockey player Valeri Bure, a 2-time Olympic medalist, and Full House star Candace Cameron Bure have been together 4 years. They met at a charity hockey game, and Candace was drawn to Valeri, leading to their marriage. Anna Kournikova and Enrique Iglesias. Anna Kournikova and Enrique Iglesias, together since the early 2000s after meeting on his Escape video set, have 3 children and credit their shared backgrounds for their strong bond. Tom Daly and Dustin Lance Black. Olympic diver Tom Daly and screenwriter Dustin Lance Black are a couple. Tom, who has medaled in every Olympics since 2008, won silver in men's synchronized 10-meter diving at the 2024 Paris Games. Yuta Learman and Jake Paul. Dutch speed skater Yuta, a silver medalist at the 2022 Beijing Olympics, and influencer Jake Paul met on Instagram in 2023. They are frequently seen together, with Jake supporting Yuta in Paris. Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. NBA star Dwayne Wade, who won a bronze medal in 2004 and gold in 2008, met actress Gabrielle Union at a Super Bowl party in 2007, and they married in 2014. Emma McKeon and Cody Simpson. Australian swimmer Emma McKeon, the most decorated Olympian from her country with 14 medals, retired at 30. She's been dating pop star Cody Simpson since 2022.
Very glad to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Наша позиция здесь является неизменной, она сформулирована давно и не носит какого-то конъюнктурного характера. Мы полагаем, что для того, чтобы обеспечить длительный, надежный, стабильный мир в регионе, нужно выполнить все решения Организации Объединенных Наций и прежде всего создать полноценное палестинское государство.
فشلت الأمم المتحدة بسبب أمريكا، بسبب الضغط الأمريكي، بسبب الموقف الأمريكي، فشلت في أن تعطينا قراراً واحداً لينفذ بحسب الشعب.
For preservation of the historic status quo with respects to the holy sites of Jerusalem, and any unilateral action, which this would be, any unilateral action like this that jeopardizes such a status quo is unacceptable. And not only is it unacceptable, it detracts from what we think is a vital time as we are working to get this ceasefire deal across the finish line.
عادل باسی پتند دلور زما قیدتی ریدو پهال کی دی کشور که در میدان محاربه سینه دشمن را میشکافد و رسم و على رسول الله أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله سهيل
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم صدق الله العظيم. افغانستان د اسلامي امارت